Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another beginner guitar lesson. Thank you for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about something very important, more important than most things we do on this channel. We're going to be discussing the dominant chord. And if you've been following through the lessons thus far, you probably know that the dominant chord is the 5 chord of any key. Whether it's a minor key or a major key, that 5 chord is considered the dominant chord. It's usually a major chord, right? Unless you're at the natural minor. But for major keys and harmonic minor keys, your 5 chord is major. It contains a minor 7th degree. So it contains a root, a major 3rd, a 5th, and a minor 7th, okay? And the reason the dominant chord is so important is because it contains intervals within it that call for resolution. So I just want to make this as straightforward as possible. When you look at any song, whether it's a pop song or a jazz song or a rock song, a lot of the times, 90+% of the time, before the song comes to a close on, say, the 1 chord, let's say your song is in C, right? Before that song ends and we rock out on that C chord and it comes to a big crash ending, there's usually a 5 chord preceding it. In this case, the 5 chord in C is G7. Alright? There you go. Alright, so G7 to C. Now, what your ear should pick up on there is that the G7 chord gives the sense of floating in midair, right? It's a beautiful chord, right? A little bit dissonant, but it doesn't feel at rest. It feels up and floating, not grounded. But as soon as you play that C chord, you are then brought back down to earth to come back to home and rest, right? So we've got that G7 to the C. So again, what's going on here is that you have a specific chord here in the dominant chord, the 5 chord. G7 to C is a 5 to 1. It will most likely be found as the last 2 chords in any song or section of a song that's in a specific key or progression. That 5 chord wants resolution. And what music is all about is starting somewhere, right? Starting on the 1 chord of any key you want. You're on that 1 chord. Maybe you're going to go to the 6 chord next, right? So you're just kind of moving around. Maybe you'll go back to the 1. And then you go back to the 6. Now, when you're sick of hanging out in left field, you got to bring in that 5 chord. And then you come back home. All right? So music is all about establishing a foundation, in this case the C chord, then using the other chords from the key of C to meander through the song, right, the progression. And then when you've had enough of the progression, you set yourself up to come back home, to land at rest, to conclude the progression, to make the song whole by creating an ending point. So you throw in the 5 chord, which is the G7. And that G7 sets you up for that floating feel, and there's things going on there with those intervals that are calling for that resolution back to the 1 chord, okay? Another example of this, just so you can hear it, is if we were to do a D7, which is the 5 and G, to a G chord. So here's your D7. All right, you have that same sound because it's the same type of chord. It's your D7 to your G. All right, you get the same call for action or call to action to resolve back home, and then we do. All right, 5 to 1s. Understanding what a major scale is, understanding what it means to pick a progression, usually starting on the 1 chord, and then to completely and utterly understand the significance of that 5 chord in relation to the 1 chord is one of the most important things you will ever hear on this channel. If you don't understand that one simple concept, then everything else is kind of pointless. Songs need a starting point. Songs need an ending point. It's how you go from one to the next that makes the song sound interesting or simple or plain. And this is one of the foundations of music theory. I hope that all made sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Please hit like and subscribe. Remember, it's free. I appreciate everything, and I'll see you guys next time.